International borders back open for family reunions at Christmas. That's the latest pledge from Gladys Berejiklian as she tries to keep people motivated to reach the target of 80% of adults fully vaccinated. But that target is still months away. Today, the cases remain high, still above 1,000. And another 3 people with COVID have died. On current trends, the state should hit 7 million jabs within days. And the Premier says she's looking forward to a better spring. Here's state political reporter Ashley Raper.
The Premier has made no secret that she's planning for beyond this escalating crisis. She's now looking to Christmas.
My absolute goal and dream is to have every Australian be home for Christmas.
67% of adults in New South Wales have had their first dose of the vaccine. And Gladys Berejiklian is pushing the state to hit the 70% double dose target in October and then 80% in November.
80% double dose allows us to look at international travel.
That decision will fall to the Prime Minister.
People will be able to, in states that aren't locking others out, those states who have moved into those thresholds, there will be the opportunity for people to go and travel and return to Australia and quarantine at home.
Some other states aren't concerned with that issue just yet.
With the greatest of respect to the New South Wales Premier, they're matters for the federal government, and that's not the top of my list.
New South Wales should just worry about getting the virus under control. That should be what they're focused on. Worrying about international travel and who's going to Paris or New York is not where they should be at.
Today, new cases were down slightly but remain high, and there were 3 more deaths. Currently, 871 COVID-positive people are in hospital, 143 of those in intensive care. And an intensive care nurse from Liverpool Hospital has described providing care when a patient is dying from COVID.
We'll connect a call with the family and we'll hold the patient's hands and we'll provide as much care and comfort and support as we possibly can.
I can't thank enough our nurses across the state, and we know that we'll be asking you to do more in September and October.
While the Premier wants every Australian home for Christmas, right now she's cutting arrivals because of stress on the system. Today the government decided to halve its already reduced cap for 2 months. So the state will accept 750 returning Australians each week to allow the resources tied to hotel quarantine to go elsewhere. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
And those resources aren't just needed in the health system. Police have a huge job enforcing the lockdown. Hundreds of protesters and a brothel owner are among the latest people caught doing the wrong thing, all on a day when there's been another tragic reminder of the toll this virus is taking. Tim Swanston has this report.
William Orule is one of the youngest to lose their life with COVID in this outbreak. The father of 4 in his 30s died alone at his Marayong home.
The family is really broken down, is really shocked.
He was a newly admitted lawyer and a leader in his community.
He's a smiling young man. I lost a greatest man.
He'd posted online about the need to stay home. In contrast, 5 COVID-positive men in Leppington have been fined for gathering on this street.
It's very clear that what these gentlemen did was inconsistent with that self-isolation order.
Another blatant breach, a Crime Stoppers tip-off led to this Rydalmere brothel being busted. 6 people, including 2 clients, have been fined. One of the men told police he was visiting his girlfriend. The other said he was issuing a quote for a paint job.
Massage parlours are closed at the moment. They're not allowed to operate.
The outbreak here at the Parkley prison keeps growing. 74 inmates and a staff member have now tested positive. The jail is in lockdown and everyone else inside is being tested.
There's vaccination going into the prison, there is infection control, practitioners on site.
Pockets of people have protested across the state, including at Parliament House.
I've had coronavirus.
Police had no patience for conspiracies.
Please stand back, people.
Almost 70 rallies were held, some in Sydney's hotspots, others in the Riverina and Northern Rivers.
Today's actions only further serve to jeopardise the freedoms of those people who are doing the right thing.
More than 150 protesters were arrested and almost 600 fined. Tim Swanston, ABC News, Sydney.
It's been another day of record cases in Western New South Wales. Xanthi Gregory is live for us in Dubbo. Xanthi, authorities say too many people are still heading out while they're infectious.
Juanita, with 615 cases since the start of this outbreak, health officials are frustrated that people with symptoms are still visiting shops and other venues and are not getting tested. A quarter of the latest cases were infectious in the community. The state's west continues to dominate regional COVID numbers with 54 new cases across the region. The biggest increases were in Dubbo, but Burke, Wellington and Bathurst numbers are also up. The far west has another 4 cases, all in Wilcannia, bringing the total in that small town to 74. There were 5 new infections in the Illawarra Shoalhaven, 4 on the Central Coast, 2 in Hunter, New England and 1 in the southern region. Members of the Aboriginal community here say they told the federal government at the start of the pandemic that a local outbreak would be disastrous.
People feel powerless because they tried to prepare for it, and those requests fell on deaf ears, and we're put in this situation now, not of our own making. It's clear that we've been failed.
Health Minister Brad Hazzard said he's been in contact with the Planning Minister to try to get approval for temporary accommodation in Wilcannia, where there are continuing problems with overcrowding.
Xanthi Gregory with the latest there from Dubbo. Australia has secured an extra 500,000 Pfizer doses from Singapore under a vaccine swap deal. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says the doses will arrive this week and be divided between states and territories on a per capita basis. He says the extra doses will help younger people get vaccinated sooner.
That means there are 500,000 doses extra that will happen in September that otherwise would have had to wait for several months from now, accelerating our vaccination program at this critical time as we work towards those 70% and 80% targets.
As part of the deal, Australia will send 500,000 Pfizer doses back to Singapore in December. The ACT's lockdown has been extended by 2 weeks until at least midnight on September 17th. The national capital recorded 13 new cases overnight, with just 4 in quarantine for their entire infectious period. The rules around some low-risk outdoor activities are being relaxed, allowing gardeners and landscapers to return to work and increasing daily exercise to 2 hours. The European Union has removed the US from its safe list of countries. It's recommending travel restrictions on unvaccinated American visitors. The EU's decision is in response to the alarming rise in case numbers across Europe and the US. The surge is being driven by the summer tourism season, a slowing vaccination rate and the more contagious Delta variant.
Last week, there was an 11% increase in the number of deaths in the region, with one reliable projection expecting 236,000 deaths in Europe by December 1st.
The travel advice from the EU isn't mandatory, so individual countries can decide if they want to let American visitors in, with either proof of vaccination, negative tests or quarantine. The US is averaging 1,200 deaths per day, and several states have more COVID patients in hospital now than at any other time during the pandemic.